Hello and welcome to 360 Gamercast UFO Special. I'm your host Mark Webb, Gamertag, Pearson D, Steam ID, Webby, 360G, and joining me on this fine evening is...
Take me to your dealer, Cinema Dan.
Hello, it's Hogarth.
Demon Knight, Damo, Ricardo is here. Looking forward to the show.
Awesome. Okay, so for those of you that don't know, so we've got Hogarth, who is a resident listener, community member, Patreon subscriber. So welcome, Hogarth. Been a very active member of the community for many, many years. Obviously, everyone knows Dan, podcaster extraordinaire, and always a reliable co-host. And we've got Damo, who I haven't spoken to in a very long time.
But nothing changes, Webby. You still sound so.
I know. And I don't age either, you know, I'm still as pretty as ever. But yeah, so me and Damo know each other very well. We actually used to work together for many years. We spent a little bit of time house sharing as well.
I said pumping up air beds.
Yeah, so when you won't find this funny, but when I was living, when I first moved in with Damo, I didn't have a bed, so I had this really shitty air bed. And every fucking night, it was me standing there going, just pumping it, going, just pumping up every fucking night. And it just become a running joke and just made us piss ourselves until I actually bought us.
I remember the night you were pumping it up for about an hour, it felt like, and you just got it to the pressure, and then the thing just popped down.
Did you spend all your money on games?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Nothing changes there.
Yeah.
But yeah, we when we were living together, we spent a hell of a lot of time watching, you know, paranormal stuff on TV, you know, the UFO and the ghost stuff and all that. And we were well into it, loved it. So, you know, Damo's well into all that. So I thought he'd be a good person to have on because he is a true believer. So
Glad to be here.
Yeah,
I believe.
A true believer. So I thought it would be quite fun to start this special episode because we're going to get into all the hard evidence that there is UFOs later on. But I actually would like to know if any of you have had any UFO experiences. And I think I will start with Dan because he probably hasn't.
I've had experiences which I can't explain. But then I suppose with a skeptical eye with hindsight, you're able to kind of realise it's tricks of the eye. There's an explanation for it, that kind of thing. I haven't got anything that I can really rely on. I examine this pretty much on with a healthy dose of skepticism, in the sense of I'm able to see what other explanations are for something. So that's what I'm bringing to this tonight, I guess.
Right,
but
okay.
if you're going to ask me about any kind of experience with a flying saucer and little green men, you know, I can't help you there. But everyone's seen weird shit. But it's not always, you know, that. It can be something like, I don't know, like modern day, like a drone or something like that, or an airplane, or even a bird. It's just sometimes people's imaginations do get carried away. So that's what I'm bringing here today.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah, man.
Sorry for ruining your first question.
No, mate, I thought I'd start with you since you're our resident skeptic. So
bring it all on. I've listened to this lot. Come on.
All right, so, okay, what about you, Hogarth?
Well, you probably know I've spent the last 4 years doing a bit of amateur astronomy, and I've pointed various lenses and telescopes at the night sky for quite a number of hours and seen absolutely nothing that I can't explain. However, before that, I have had, I'll say two experiences. One I can explain, so I worked out what was happening, and the other one, I've still no idea to this day what it was. I'll start with that one. So in 2010, we were on a family holiday in Ibiza. No raving, no, what did Wes say? No biscuits.
Oh, you weren't popping any disco biscuits.
Yeah, no disco biscuits or anything. And it was just sort of early evening, dusky time, and we'd finished sort of evening meal, and we were sat outside having a few drinks. And just as a side thing, that the island was actually starting to catch fire, and there was talk of evacuations and things, so all sorts of weird things was happening as well. And this bright light just started, well, it appeared in the sky. I won't say it just appeared, I noticed it in the sky. And I thought, what's that? I mean, it must be a plane, but planes oscillate their flashing lights, and this was just a solid white light. And it was slightly elongated as well, but you couldn't really tell that from where it was. But when I zoomed in with my camera, and I only had a cheapy sort of point-and-shoot camera then, I could see it was like, well, that's not a plane. And there was no, you know, like when jets go over, you can, even the high altitude ones, you can still hear like a low hum of the jet. So there was no sounds whatsoever.
Yeah, yeah.
And this white light just literally, and everybody started to look up when I was pointing up and saying, what the hell's that? And everyone was like, yeah, well. So followed this white light across the sky, and I took a few pictures, and I actually posted them on a UFO reporting site at the time, back in 2010, and they've zoomed in on it, and you can sort of see the elongation. And that was it. And then probably about 3 or 4 months ago, I was actually thinking about it. Because of my sort of recent astronomy knowledge and doing shit for the last 4 years, I thought, I wonder if what I saw was the ISS. So I've seen the ISS many times now go overnight. And I'll say it looked very similar to what I see the ISS as now. So I found a website which showed the previous ISS orbits, and it did go back as far as 2010. And I checked, and there was nothing. The ISS didn't go over Ibiza on that night we saw it. So I ruled that out. So to this day, I don't know what that was. My second one, which at the time was very weird, but within half an hour, I'd worked out what was going on. Right. So back in my really early taking pictures of the night sky, me and a friend, we were up on the North Yorkshire moors at a place called Danby, and it's classified as a dark sky site, so it gets incredibly dark, and it's in the middle of the North Yorkshire moors, basically at the top end of it. And we'd been up there for probably a couple of hours, just doing some stuff, taking some pictures of the Milky Way. And at the time, I didn't have a telescope. I was just using a camera and quite a long zoom lens, a 600mm lens. And as we were packing up, I'd noticed over on the sort of western skyline, I'll just say something odd twinkling in the sky, oscillating, I'll call it. So I zoomed in with my lens, and all I could see was this very sort of strange, oscillating white light, but it was changing colours. It was going red, green, blue, and then it started to move. And I couldn't work out, so I got Ben, who was my friend at the time, who was with me. I got him to look through, and he's like, God, what is that? And we were looking at it for probably 5 or 6 minutes. But when I didn't look through the lens, it didn't move. But when I looked through the lens, it did move. And that was the first clue as to, oh, right, okay, this isn't what we think it is. And to cut a real long story short, this, as I say, this was my very early days of astronomy. There's a really bright sky that sits low on the horizon called Sirius. And it's the brightest star in our night sky. And because of where it sits in the atmosphere, it gets distorted and it gives it this very twinkling effect. And when you zoom in on it, that gets exaggerated. And it was basically that. So it was a UFO for about half an hour and then worked out what it was.
Can you put the link to your UFO story in the Twitch for people?
Yeah, sure. I'll put that in now.
So that first sighting you had, that's unexplained then. You have no idea what that craft was, if it was a craft. I know you were saying the skeptics out there would say, well, there was a fire on the other side of Ibiza, so couldn't it be like, I don't know, reflections of the flames, or you get the flaming embers floating around in the sky or whatever,
So it had literally a straight projection in the sky, basically like a plane.
Yeah.
Thinking about it earlier on today, and stuff that I know about how stuff like the sun and the moon now work, the only explanation I can think of is the angle of the sun and the angle of the moon maybe that night was basically just making it the planes complete, all its lights be dimmed out by the fact that it was just reflecting the entire tube of the plane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's the only thing I can think of.
Okay. And what about the second sighting then? What did that end up being then? Do you know?
That's just the star called Sirius.
Just a star. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's fascinating. That is fascinating. Mr. Hovis has been in Twitch chat. It could have been a drone. I love
the
it.
first
people...
one. This is 2010. Drone. Well, certainly, sort of prosumer drones weren't a thing in 2010, really.
Yeah.
And it was quite high. You could tell. One of the mistakes I made with my photograph, and I got, well, say criticised, but on the site that I put it on, they said you should have put something in the reference frame of the image so we could see how big your view is of the picture you took against, say, a tree or a building or a. But obviously, at the time, I was just interested in taking a picture of what it was.
Yeah. You don't really think about stuff like that when you're in kind of in awe or maybe a little bit of panic or whatever. Yeah, that's fascinating, man. That's absolutely fascinating. It really is. Cool. Anything else you want to mention on that, Hogarth? I mean, those are fascinating. Dan, are you being skeptical on these things?
Well, in all fairness, it's a very logical explanation and an open mind to assess use the scientific method to explain it. So, sometimes you can't always explain something, but just because Nigel's gone through motions here and trying to work out as best as possible. So, some things are unexplainable. They are, and hence the term UFOs. But anyway, we'll continue. We'll dig deeper.
So, what about you, Damo?
Well, I'd like to start off with a quote from Arthur C. Clarke, and one of the quotes, well, his only quote that's really sort of stuck with me was when he said there's two possibilities that exist. Either we are alone in the universe or we are not. And both are equally terrifying. And it comes down to that at the end of the day, doesn't it? We are either alone or we're not.
Yeah.
And if we are alone, then that's, well, firstly, a big waste of space. And the odds on, us being here are, well, there probably aren't even odds that, go that far. And I think over the years, you used to get the 1950s sci-fi movies with these little green men and stuff, and everyone used to laugh and that. But I think over the years that people have become more believing in, we call them aliens, and people do think of little green men, but at the end of the day, all they are is people from other worlds,
Yeah.
And the worry, one of the worrying things as well is if there are other worldly beings, they only need to be 1,000 years more advanced than us to be, the technology they would have would be out of this world. On top of that, humans only see in a certain UV light, so for all we know, there could be incognito aliens flying all among us everywhere that we just can't see. And the amount of strange things that do go on and are seen, there's a saying, there's more stranger in the world than heaven and earth. So I'm pretty open about it all. I'd be more shocked if it was found that there wasn't aliens or other people in the universe. That would be more shocking to me.
So let me get this right. So I agree with you in terms of alien life forms, whether it be sentient or not on other planets. Definitely, anything from bacterial forms to foliage to bipedal, whatever life forms. There's all sorts of different kind of variables out there depending on resources, molecular structure, any kind of environmental effects that causes evolution to go a certain way, and quite clearly I agree with that. Well, I kind of struggle with how aliens visit us. Is what you have to remember is that the universe is 13 years old, and us as a species are well, our evolutionary tract is infinitesimal. It's tiny compared to how big the universe is. So if you compare the amount of time that's happened versus the infinite space of the universe and the amount of time species have had time to evolve, you know, we could be in a scenario where civilizations have come and gone before, you know, we get to our prime in being able to get off this planet finally and go and explode past the solar system. So the whole kind of concept, I think, is quite of alien beings coming here and infiltrating our governments, or kind of, you know, making pacts with governments, or us stealing tech from them. A little bit far-fetched.
Well,
it's almost like...
I mean, there's a few theories on that, isn't there, Dan? And you know, you got to take them all with a pinch of salt. So, one theory that is quite, which people favour, in fact, in the UFO communities, is that UFOs and aliens have visited Earth over, you know, X amount of years, but they've evolved to a higher state of being where, you know, because people think, oh, they're going to attack us or whatever, but I think they're just coming to observe. And I think us as a species are not at a level where they would want to make contact, because they look at us and they think, fuck me, they're very hostile, you know.
Well, that's an interesting point, actually, Webby, because I remember someone saying, you know, if there's aliens out there, where are they?
Yeah.
Well,
Can I just put some context on?
Because they're not there.
How many people go into the woods to look for an anthill? You know, you're just insignificant. We don't bother.
Because they're not there doesn't mean they're hiding. Because you can't see them doesn't mean... I don't get that logic. I really don't. It's almost like, I want to believe something. So the absence of every evidence says that there's a cover-up or there's a conspiracy.
Oh no, but because like there has been some. I mean, I've been watching a lot of documentaries today, in fact, and there is a lot of evidence out there. You know, and some of the really good evidence that I know we're divulging from what we've seen, and that we'll get back to that. But you know, some of the evidence that has been in some well-produced documentaries on Amazon Video and on Netflix and various other sources. I mean, these documentaries have been going on for years, but the most recent ones that have come out even in the last couple of years. You've got, you know, people in government, you've got military personnel, people from the Air Force, all stating that they've seen UFOs. These are people that are trained fighter pilots. You know, there's been evidence released from the US government. There's, you know, and they're still going to be releasing more stuff this year. Well, there's been leaked documents online.
I suppose that refers to the document you're talking about that the Pentagon's going to release probably in the next few days or so, or weeks. Is that what you're moving on to?
Well, no, but because there's actual footage from fighter pilots who've been who've tracked UFOs, and you know, if you've got a fighter pilot, someone who's had thousands of hours of airtime, used to seeing craft, and he's flying along, and it's like, what the fuck is that thing? Just zipping around, doing manoeuvres that no man-made aircraft can do.
Are you talking about that footage where they're tracking two objects, literally sort of diagonal down to the right of them?
Oh, that's one of the most recent ones that's been released, isn't it?
Yeah, the odd thing I find about that is, whatever the pilots are travelling in happens to be travelling at exactly the same speed as the object that they're tracking. It all feels a little bit, I don't know, odd as that video. It stays exactly, when they've homed in on it, it stays exactly at the same velocity as what they're travelling at.
Okay, that's a fair point. Okay.
Oh, can I just put some context on some of the stuff that we just said about how big things are?
Yeah. Go for it.
So our Earth is in the Milky Way, and the Milky Way has roughly 400 billion stars. And if you think of our sun is our star, and there's 8 planets in our solar system that orbit our sun, so there's almost certainly planets that are orbiting the other 400 billion stars in our Milky Way. But outside of our Milky Way, there's estimated to be about another 2 trillion galaxies. And if you sort of work all that out, the universe is basically contains roughly, and this is a very wide number, between 30 to 70 billion trillion stars, each of which could contain multiple planets orbiting them. Now, our nearest galaxy is roughly I think it's 4 light years away. Current technology that we have, and that's the key bit, the current technology that we have to get 4.2 light years of travel time would take over 6,000 years with the technology that we've got. So for something outside of our galaxy to get to us when we're making an assumption that they've got the same technology as us, would take over 6,000 years to get to us. And that's just the closest galaxy. So the speed of light can't be broken as a law of physics. But there's things such as Einstein's wormhole theory. And whilst it's never been proven that his wormhole theory can be achieved, the thing that's going for Einstein is that every single one of his other predictions that he's made so far about quantum mechanics and how the universe and all those sorts of his theory of relativity have all been proven to be 100% correct after his death. There's tons of his theories that haven't been proven. And in theory, if his wormhole theory is proven to be correct, that actually opens the door to those distances that we are away from potential other civilizations to be broken. Me personally, I'm sat on the fence. So I look at that from a science perspective and go, we're just too far away from anywhere close to have come to us. And I won't say I was having an argument, I was having a discussion with AJ Geezer earlier on in the in Discord. Right now, we've only discovered, and this is the other thing that's really astounding, is it's only in recent years we've discovered roughly just over 4,000 exoplanets that have been confirmed as planets. And the reason we can't discover planets easily is that they're not on fire like the sun. So all the stars you see in the sky are basically suns, and that's the reason why we can see them fairly easily. What we can't see are planets outside of our own solar system because they don't emit light. They're reflected light off their own sun, but that'll be very, very dim. And we've only discovered around 4,000-ish of those so far. And there's a very small percentage of those which are known to be in sort of the Goldilocks zone, the habitable zone. So they're in the right distance from their sun to be not too cold and not too hot. So my stance is there life in the universe other than us? Almost certainly yes. Has life visited us on Earth? I think no, because of the distance that they'd have to travel to get to us.
To listen to the rest of this awesome UFO special, which is 2 hours long, you will need to subscribe to the Patreon. You can find that at patreon.com/360gamercast. From as little as £5 a month, you get to listen to every single podcast every single week of the year, plus all the special episodes such as this one. So what are you waiting for? Subscribe to the Patreon, patreon.com/360gamercast. £5 a month, you know you want to.